Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah, la'asok b'divrei Torah, la'asok b'divrei Torah, la'asok b'divrei Torah, la'asok b'divrei Torah. Okay, first things first, if we can put that in the charity box, please. Where's that book? Ron, thank you so much, you and Kalen, for the book. I hope you kept a copy for yourself. Because I have one, remember. So I know how hard they are. So I hope you kept one for yourself, because if not, I got to send this back to you. It is a fabulous, fabulous book. This book, Gigantic Little Secrets of the Torah. And I don't know how you got it, because I've never been able to find more copies of it. And it is such a brilliant, brilliant piece of work.
Who published it?
I don't know, some random Jewish place. I don't even know. So, all right. A couple announcements. We have a Laka launch, and we really need to get a lot of tickets sold. And we have some great prizes. We have a $5,000 piece of art, oil painting. We have trips. We have all sorts of stuff. We have an exercise goal that someone donated back after he won it. So we have a number of things. Trip to Israel. So they're reworking all of the schedule. You need to know this because you guys and the Hoffmans were going to stay at the 21st floor hotel, correct? Okay. That is part of the reason it's taking so long is the trip will be 2 days longer. It will either be 1 day longer or 3 days longer than the original trip. But the other challenge is the 21st floor hotel is now put on their website that they're having major financial problems, and anyone who makes a reservation may not get their money back. Apparently, they're dealing with bankruptcy. So they're finding another hotel that also has Wi-Fi that'll be similar. So if you want to stay there instead of the Sephardic house, and you guys wanted to borrow that, right? Just make sure you bring it back. I've given away hundreds of books. People say from no, this is the temple library, but from mine. And
if you look in the inside the front space, you'll find a phone number of a rabbi. He may be the author.
Oh, really?
So I would suggest you.
No, I think that's someone who gave an endorsement.
There is a phone number, a New York phone number.
Yeah. So, but it's a great, amazing piece. So, we will know more about Israel shortly. Are you guys going to go?
I don't think so.
So this year's going to be June 29th. It starts, and then we'll go to July either 12th or 14th. Because closing ceremonies are going to be totally. It's going to be amazing. All right. So let's talk about. Well, the whole idea was using a travel agency to do all this, and I've spent hundreds of hours before. Now I'm not spending like that now because I wanted very specific things. I also know when we get ripped off, so that's an issue for me. But we have lots of special things planned, including a gala with President Herzog for a few hundred people before opening ceremonies, including now we'll go to closing ceremonies, including VIP tickets to the opening ceremonies, including all sorts of stuff. Okay, so yeah, so including a river raft down the Jordan, including going ranching on a cowboy ranch and then eating at their steakhouse up in the Galilee and going to a winery, as well as all sorts of other things. That are, well, it will be really cool. And,
I know.
all right, so
how do we get details?
I'll have more details in the next week or two.
I know, not that we can pull it all together, but we'll see. You never know.
So, all right, so let's talk about. This has been working for you guys about doing things that are hidden in plain sight. Yes. Okay. So, and you're definitely not going to go, right? Okay. Okay. So this is, you think about things that are hidden in plain sight. What is the two things that non-Jews, the most Jewishness that most non-Jews ever see? No, I'm just talking about it in a moment. Weddings and funerals. Right? Non-Jews go to Jewish weddings, they go to Jewish funerals. And then they ask the Jew, what does that mean? And what does the Jew say?
I don't know. Yeah, that's true.
That's true.
All right, so we're going to go over funerals first and then do weddings because I think it's important. So there are multiple steps to a Jewish funeral. The term for a Jewish funeral, the word does not mean funeral. It actually means escort. And it's a double entendre. that we are escorting the person who's deceased, their soul, to a different way of existence, and we're escorting ourselves to life without them. Okay?
Okay.
And it's the same term that is used to describe what a father does when he escorts a bride to the wedding canopy.
Huh.
Oh.
Okay, it tells you it's a bittersweet moment, right? So, funeral, someone dies. First thing you do is you call the mortuary, the cemetery, so they pick it up. Okay, they pick up the body. Then we bury within 3 days, not counting holidays. Okay, now, why do we? That's my son's going on different sites that they shouldn't be.
Busted.
Yep. So, what? Someone dies. We do it within 3 days. The reason has nothing to do with because the body will decay. Because in Judaism, embalming is allowed. It actually says that Jacob was embalmed.
Oh,
Okay, so embalming is allowed. So we do it as an act of compassion. Who's lost somebody?
of course.
Okay. That time period between the death and the funeral is we actually refer to it in Hebrew. The term means not here, not there.
Right.
Okay.
And that's exactly how you
Because
and that's exactly how you feel.
it's how you feel. You got
Like you're stuck in this place.
and it's neither here nor there, right? So,
What's the word?
I can't even remember what it is right now. I've got this head cold that's why I'm sniffling that I just started doing. But it literally means to neither be here nor there. And so we want to get the person buried as soon as possible because it is compassionate. Now, why don't we cremate?
Because you didn't. Well, we can know the obvious things that we think about.
Well, okay, so why don't we cremate? What are the obvious
It
things?
takes too long to get the ashes back, so it drags it out too long.
That's actually why.
Oh, okay.
Okay. The theological reason is because when the Messiah comes, we're taught we're all to be resurrected from our hyoid bone, which is in here somewhere. But if you've been dead 1,000 years, there's no hyoid bone anyhow. It's just dust. So why do we do that? And it really is much more compassionate. Here's the other problem. When someone cremates, yes?
They've been doing this for thousands of years,
Right.
right? And you're saying, I mean, it didn't take that long ago.
No, but it still did take longer. And here's the other reason with it, though. So now you've got cremains. They're not called ashes, they're cremains. And they're an urn. Okay? And the urn goes on the why is there an ant there? Go away. The urn goes on the mantle, right? And then the urn falls. And there's an earthquake, and the cat eats the ashes. And you get a phone call. Rabbi, what do I do? My cat ate grandma. That sounds funny. It's not. It's not. It's really hard. You make those ashes into an icon. We don't want to do that. We also want to be from the earth we came to the earth we return. Okay.
But what if
That's
you
all
bury
right.
ashes?
I'm okay with that. I do cremation funerals, but traditionally we don't. Okay. And I will try and talk people out of cremation whenever possible. But if they do it, they do it. And my job is to serve people, not to judge them. Okay. So we're going to have this burial. You have a couple of choices after the mortuary or cemetery has collected the body. The first choice is something called tahora. Tahara means cleansing. It is a ritual cleansing done by a group called the Chevra Kadisha, the Holy Friends. They are anonymous, and they will take the body and cleanse every orifice, under the nails, under the eyelids, everything while saying prayers. Okay. Now, we know the soul is not in the body, so why do we do that? It's a couple of reasons. One is we treasure and honor the vessel that carried the soul for however many years. And another reason is there's a whole discussion in the Talmud about when does a soul leave its body. And it goes everywhere from at the moment of death, the moment of burial, or the moment when the casket is closed, the moment of burial, all the way to not for 11 months or 12 months, depending on who the person is. Okay. But for a lot of us, it gives us comfort that someone's taking care of our body, the body. The other thing is something called a shomer. Again, there's a parallel to a wedding. Shomer means guardian. The shomer is someone who will stay with the body and recite prayers and psalms. Now, one of the theories is that the soul, between the death and the burial, is flitting back and forth between heaven and its body. And it's traveling where it traveled on earth and all these things. And so when it comes back to the body, you don't want it to feel lonely. You don't want it to be scared. Okay? So those are the first two things. Then we get to the burial. It is our tradition to get the least expensive coffin possible. Okay? This is because the rabbis ordained this because, excuse me, Mr. Goldberg had a lot of money. His son buries Goldberg in this big expensive casket. Mr. Rabinowitz doesn't have any money. His son doesn't want anyone to think that he's not honoring his dad as much as Goldberg did, so he goes into debt for all this. That's not our way. We treasure life, not death. Okay? So at that point, we typically have the simple pine box. And now we have the funeral service itself. Okay? There are a lot of different choices, but there are two prayers that are always said. One is El Male Rachamim, which is a prayer that says, the best way to translate it is that it's asking the female presence of God, the Shekhinah, to give the loved one a hug. That's really the best way to define it. Okay? It has all this flowery language, the English translations, that it should be sheltered under your wings of comfort. And it's asking God to give the person a hug. The other prayer is the Kaddish, which we talked about, which is a prayer of transition and self-reflective. So that God has become greater God became more godly because of this person. So we do burial. And everyone does 3 shovels. 3 is a specific number. 1 is for the nefesh, which is the physical aspect of the soul. 1 is the ruach, the mental, emotional. 1 is the neshama, spiritual aspect of the soul. And so we're placing earth on in each case. There are people who get very uncomfortable with this. I'm throwing dirt at my loved one. No, you're tucking them in with the last blankets they will have in this world. The nefesh, which is physical, the ruach, which is mental, emotional, the neshama, which is spiritual. Okay, and you're not throwing dirt at them, God forbid. You're tucking them in with the last blankets they ever touch you in the physical world. After you have everyone's done 3, then the tradition is that you continue until the casket is covered. You do not need to fill all the way to the top, but you need to fill so you don't see any casket or vault at all anymore. Again, when you love someone, you tuck them in all the way. You don't just tuck them in up to their waist. Okay? A lot of rabbis only do 3. There are some now. I actually went to a funeral where the rabbi was a very, very prominent Reform rabbi, had people just do 1. And there are some rabbis who weren't doing any. My answer is, you know what? Cancel your golf tee time. Okay, do it right. Do it right. So
I've never been to one that it wasn't the way and all different levels of.
Yeah, there's some who are only doing 1 and some who aren't even doing any now.
Wow. I'm sorry, my stepdad just won.
That's all you wanted?
That was all the guy was capable of. He was literally a Las Vegas rabbi. All he could talk about was the people he'd known and the hands he'd shaken. And he thought he was some sort of a comedian, so he thought he was entertaining at this funeral. It was so awful.
Yeah, so here's one of the problems with funerals and weddings that I have taken great issue with my colleagues on. It has become sort of a practice that the rabbi is going to talk. He might talk about the Torah portion. He might talk about comedy, whatever, so that he can show how great he is. So you're going to join his temple. How smart he is. He's going to go to Torah commentary. My answer is, how smart I am. I got lots of writings you can read. You can come to a class. I got a book. Funerals and weddings, no one is there for the rabbi to speak. And it's very selfish, I think. So, because you're not considered a mourner until after burial. So we want to get you to be a mourner effortlessly and efficiently. Okay, but the tucking in is really, really important. When you leave the cemetery, at the front of the cemetery, at the gates in, you will find a water fountain in a Jewish cemetery. You wash. You're washing death off. That's what you're doing. Okay, that's why you're washing it.
I don't wonder why.
That's why. And now if you look, and Sinai is really perfect at this. How many have been to Sinai in Hollywood Hills? Okay. You leave Sinai, and there's these big gates, right? That you go in and you come out, and then the water fountain's right here. If you turn around and you look at the pillars, it has one of the terms for a cemetery that's written there. Beit HaChaim, house of the living. That's what we call a cemetery.
Oh.
Okay? Isn't that interesting? That says a lot about our theology.
Wow.
It says right there on the gate. So now you're going to leave you leave the cemetery, and you go to what is really important, which is the meal of consolation. Because you have a meal afterwards, whether it's a restaurant or a home or whatever it is. Traditional foods at the meal include eggs and or beans for the roundness, the roundness of cycle of life. This tracks back to why did he deserve the birthright from Esau? Remember, Esau sold it to him for a bowl of bean stew. That we're taught, the Midrash teaches that bean stew was actually for their grandfather Abraham's meal of consolation. And Esau didn't care. He wanted what he wanted. So traditional food includes that. And then you have a period called Shiva and Shloshim. Shiva is the 7 days following the funeral. During that time, you stay at home. People come to the house. They bring food, so you don't have to worry about that. You have services twice a day, and they're dedicated to the deceased. And again, the way that it should be done, again, not all too often not done this way by rabbis, is when you get to after the Amidah, where the rabbi typically gives a sermon, in a service, that's the place people should tell stories about the deceased.
Hmm.
He did twice a day for a week. Typically, we study in that first month Talmud, typically Pirkei Avot, okay, which is the ethics of our fathers. After the 7 days, you leave the house and you go for 23 days more, making a total of 30, where you leave the house, but you still go to services twice a day. You still study Talmud. Now, Jewish ritual across the board, doesn't matter what ritual, typically has two purposes. One is spiritual, one is practical / psychological / emotional. Okay, and we see it really clearly here. Why do we have Shiva? Well, the funeral's on Monday. Let's say that the grown son of the deceased had lunch with his grandmother, his mother, whatever it may be, every Tuesday. Well, that Tuesday was the first time he does it, so it marks it in the consciousness. It also is because we believe that when you're studying, it helps elevate somebody's soul. Because what gives a father more pride? I'll use you as an example. He comes to you and he says, "Dad, look what I learned about anything." It gives you nachas, right? So learning something. What I came up with years ago for families that I know are not going to do Shiva or Shloshim is I suggest to them that for a month, they take a few minutes and they learn something new in the deceased's honor. Flute, French, saxophone, Spanish, astrology, astronomy, digital currency, Talmud, whatever it is. Say, Mom, this is for you. It will both give that soul joy and it'll help them mark the time in their. So we have a week, we have a month, and then we have a year later, we have an unveiling of the gravestone. And an unveiling, which can be done as early as 11 months, because we say it takes a year for the soul to really have done all that it needs to do and be fully in heaven, except for the perfect tzaddik, which is 11 months. And since we all assume that our parents, our loved ones, were perfect tzaddikim, we can do 11 months. But I just do it today. It is basically a mini funeral. Okay? And you're unveiling the stone. And it's a way of saying, okay, you know what? We're always going to miss you, but no longer will your death be the foundation of our experience of life. For that first year, everything you experience, the first Passover, the first Thanksgiving, the first Hanukkah, the first birthday, is all filtered through the loved one's loss, right? So you have Shiva, Shloshim, and then a year of mourning, okay? And then your mourning is over. So there's our tradition to say Kaddish every day during that year. But after the year, you stop. You don't keep saying Kaddish every day. You move on to life.
For 12 months or 11 months?
So 12 months is the year,
Yeah.
but you can do it at 11 months. Okay, but you still don't know anything after 12. Yeah.
When my dad died, I was told by the rabbi at the small little chapel I used to go to that I had to come every day for 12 months, twice a day, to say prayers.
So people will say, some people say all sorts of things. The idea is traditionally we say Kaddish every day for them.
Yeah.
Um,
I did.
and what some people do is they will hire somebody to say Kaddish for them. They'll actually say, you know, I'm not going to do it. I don't know Kaddish from now. You know, can I pay you to do it? And there are a lot of these Chabad guys. That's what they do.
Mhm.
They literally are getting it's where they make income. Yeah, you can pay me. I charge, you know, for the year $500, $1,000, whatever. I'll say Kaddish every day.
No one was very nice. The guys at this little chapel, all of them were Holocaust survivors, and they all helped me. They helped me say I didn't know the Kaddish.
You learn it.
I learned it.
Yeah.
And they were very nice.
You had something.
Oh, I was just gonna say, a couple weeks ago, I wasn't here because I was at my aunt's funeral and back in Philadelphia. And I was gonna ask you, but I was gonna say that one of the cousins came up to my mom and said, I'll take care of Kaddish for you.
Yeah, it's fine.
Which is very funny. I was
And
like, okay, go for it.
now there are only 7 relationships that are commanded or that are obligated to do Shiva Shloshim and the year. Mother, father, if your mother, father dies, if your son or daughter, God forbid, Pui Pui dies, if your brother or sister dies, and your spouse. 7 primary relationships. And as part of the funeral, one of the things we do is we have a Kriya ribbon. So at the funeral, we typically have a piece of fabric that we wear on our chest, and it's ripped. And if it's on the left side, it means you lost a parent. If it's anything else, it's on the right side. Okay? And we rip it. And the idea is it's a mirror reflection of the rip that's in your soul. Because when you lose your dad, your soul gets ripped. But it's also a promise and a hope. Because you could take that fabric and you could take it to a tailor and make it stronger than it ever has been. You could put leather backing on it, etc. But if you look carefully, the mark will always be there. That's how it is with death. That we will become stronger, and yet the mark will always be there. It is also a big moment when that happens. Traditionally, you cut a piece of clothing or you cut a fabric on the outside. It becomes very clothing. Now, why do we have this rip? It is both reflective of what's going on in our soul, but it's also a mark so that other people know that this is a mourner. Okay? Why? Because we're taught that the merit in coming to a funeral is in the courage to be willing to be silent. Which is a weird phrase, especially knowing that it's addressed to Jews, right? The courage to be willing to be silent. So here's what that means. Mr. Pillonly loses his mom, okay? There's 200 people there. Many people are uncomfortable with death. And one of the ways they express it is they want to come up to Mr. Pillonly, oh, I'm so sorry, I loved your mom so much, et cetera, et cetera. After about the 5th or 10th person, it feels like a bad wedding reception.
Yeah.
They want to say thank you. And on the other hand, it's like, just leave me alone. Just lost my mom, right? So the idea behind it is to be willing to stand with a mourner if someone has a ribbon on them or cut fabric and not initiate a conversation. They may not want to talk in that moment. And if they do, they'll start the conversation. It's again being kind, compassionate. Okay, everyone with that? So we have the meal of consolation. And what do we have outside the door where the meal of consolation is, or where the Shiva meals are? A washing bowl, right? We have a pitcher of water and a bowl. Why? For the same reason that from when we leave the cemetery, we're washing death off of us. How many of you were taught that you wash before you go into the house? That doesn't make any sense, does it? Makes no sense. Why do I need to wash before I go in the house?
I guess maybe because not most people don't really wash when they leave the cemetery, so that's why I was thinking about that.
But you're still in death. You want to wash afterwards.
Yeah.
You got to wash afterwards because you're leaving a house of death, house of mourning.
I guess so. Didn't
Right?
think about that, right?
What's another custom that you see? What do we see constantly when people are doing burial? Okay? They get up. Now remember, the mitzvah shel chesed gadol, the good deed of great compassion, is when you are burying the dead.
Mhm.
Why? Because there's no reward for it in this world. The person's not going to get up and say, thank you. It's not going to happen. What do a lot of people do when they get to do their shovels? They turn it upside down.
I was gonna ask you about that,
That's
because the rabbi
because
told us that
sometimes
the first one
rabbis
was
say to
supposed to
do
be.
that.
It's a Catholic custom.
What?
Oh,
It comes from Catholicism. It comes from that tradition. If the idea is we are recalcitrant to bury them, and no, it's the mitzvah of great compassion to bury them, not recalcitrant. I want to do that. I want to serve them. I don't want to be hesitant about it. It comes from the way Catholics view death as opposed to the way we do. Remember, in the churches, most churches do not bury their dead. We bury our own.
Right.
Okay, so it makes no sense if the goal is to do the burial. How are you going to keep doing it upside down?
I know. I never did. I didn't understand that part of that.
It doesn't make sense, does it?
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense.
I have a hard enough time
Here's one of the things.
sometimes
Also, what do you
shopping, so-
what do you never see a rabbi wear at a funeral?
Color?
Atalas.
A tallis.
Talis, right.
The reason is we are taught that it is to wear talit in front of the deceased is to thumb our nose at them.
Hmm.
See, I can still do this commandment and you can't.
Oh.
Doesn't mean you won't see rabbis who don't know what they're doing or who are very young or whatever wear tallis because they think that's guards like their collar. It's not. All right. So and
And you also don't bury the deceased with their children.
correct. You traditionally bury them in their talit, but you cut the fringes.
Oh.
You cut the fringes out so that
But then I've also heard that you don't bury their children.
no, you traditionally would bury them in their tallis. But someone may have multiple tallisim.
True.
I got one that I wear all the time and one that I wear during Yontif.
Right.
So the other thing is that typically that we will also, if people have them, they will wear their kittel that they wear on high holidays and on Yontif. They'll be buried in their kittel as well. Okay. So this is all part of the ritual. If you look at every piece of it, it both serves the deceased and it serves the survivors. Yes.
why is it when you go to the grave to visit,
Stones.
you always put a stone?
Just asked that today. So there's a tradition to put a stone, and there's a couple of reasons. One is it's a way of saying someone was here visiting.
That's what I figured. Okay.
The other is because a stone is real. Stone's made by God. It's real, and it always will be a stone, even if it's ground up into dust or put into adobe, or it's a stone. The rock is rock, and so that's why you put it as well. It also, there's stuff with the Holocaust too
Yeah.
today, but it really is a way of saying someone was here, and it's much more permanent than flowers.
Oh God, yeah.
But you know what happens to the flowers in cemeteries?
They get thrown away.
They typically don't. At the cemeteries here in Southern California, they get eaten by deer.
Mhm.
Right.
If you show up at like 4:00 at Sinai, the Russians do these big sprays and the Persians do these big sprays, right? Deer love it. They come down from the hills and they just munch and have dinner. They love it. So, and then it gets thrown away. But so it's there. Now, what's interesting is our practices around death are very dissimilar from what happens in the church, but very similar to what indigenous traditions do, where they bury their own. We bury our own. And bless you. And so the funeral is, it's the whole process. And it's all geared to both elevate the soul and to take care of the survivors so they become healed. Because you can't even start until you hear that thunk of the earth on the casket. That changes your world, doesn't it? Right. So Orlando hates when I do that on the microphone.
But if we buried in a wall,
That's fine. Now, why would a crypt be okay? Our ancestors, which we will visit when we will visit Hashem in Israel this summer, Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and Sarah and Rebecca and Leah are all buried in a cave, in the cave in Hebron, the cave of Machpelah. From this, we know that you can be buried in a cave. Each of the crypts are their own separate cave, the way they're structured. So crypt is totally kosher. Totally kosher. And the challenge with a crypt is you don't get to do the earth, which is very cathartic. I remember when my brother died Everyone did their 3 shovels. Everyone did stuff and they left. I just stayed there with a friend and I kept shoveling. Just very, very cathartic. You don't get that in a crypt. Typically, when we have a crypt burial, they have a packet of earth from Jerusalem, and they will spread the main 7 relationships will spread earth on the top. They'll just sort of sprinkle it on the top of the casket. Okay, but it's a cave. That's why it's not underground, but it's a cave.
Yeah.
Some cemeteries use duck roofing.
So they do,
Sand from Jerusalem.
and they do a shroud, and they,
Yeah, the freaking the shroud. Yeah.
and that's more observant custom. You can certainly do it. They're now doing green burials in some cemeteries where it's not even in a casket. Yeah, they're doing that. So does that kind of answer, kind of do a certain, okay. And again, embalming is fine. Embalming is absolutely allowed. So that's not why we do it. It's not worry about decaying of the body. Okay. The big thing is to understand is that it is an escort. We are escorting ourselves and we're escorting the deceased. Make sense? Okay. Let's talk about weddings. From the most halachic, and again, the term of a father walking his daughter to the chuppah is the same term as for a funeral. And there are only 3 things that are needed in a Jewish wedding. A contract, ketubah. There must be an exchange of something valuable, typically rings, and you got to make love. Those 3 things make a wedding. But there's a lot of other customs. So this is one of those things where Judaism is like a Chinese menu. So I'll spend time with a couple, and I will go through excuse me, all the different choices, what they mean historically, theologically, Kabbalistically, and they will design their own wedding. So let's go through the wedding. You can do the engagement and ketubah signing up to 1 year before the wedding. Okay? There's actually a traditional ketubah signing part that after the ketubah is signed, the mothers of the bride and the bridegroom and the groom hold a plate in front of the couple and they break the plate in front of the couple. It is mirrored when we break the glass. It's also a way of saying you're going to have to learn how to feed yourselves. Okay? So we have a ketubah signing. A ketubah is a legal contract, the first contract in recorded Western history that protects the bride. It protects the woman. It is all about her. Okay? The groom is giving everything up to her. It's referred to by according to the laws of Moses in Israel, but everything is going to the bride. And what I say to grooms all the time, it's the best deal you're ever going to get. Okay? Because she's going to pass watermelon through the eyes of a needle. Okay? Best deal you're ever going to get. So in the ketubah, there's specific language. Traditionally, the ketubah is in the same language as it has been for 2,000 years, and it's in Aramaic, not Hebrew. Okay? And traditionally, there is a mistake on the ketubah. Okay? So the word kinya, which means acquisition, and has a kuf looks like this, right? That's how a kuf looks. In the ketubah, it just looks like this. And the rabbi has to find it and draw the line by hand there. That way you know the rabbi actually looked at the ketubah. Otherwise, you don't know if he looked at it, you don't know if it's right. Okay? The bride and groom are not obligated to sign the ketubah. The witnesses are. The witnesses must be 2 men, not related by blood, who are shomer mitzvot. Now, what does that really mean effectively? How do you know if someone's shomer mitzvot? They write their name in Hebrew. Since anyone could become shomer mitzvot later in their life, as long as it's 2 men not related by blood who are Jewish, then that's actually fine. And I have on numerous occasions, the witness knows his name but doesn't know how to write Hebrew, and I'll spell it out for him, and I'll write it on a card, and he'll copy it, which is the weirdest thing because they'll copy it from left to right, and it just messes with my head. You know, it really is really, really weird when someone's writing Hebrew letters this way. It just does. It just so confusing. But so you have two witnesses. There's a beautiful Persian custom that whoever's at the ketubah signing, it's a contract, right? After the ketubah signing, they turn the contract over, and whoever wants to write their name for a blessing writes it on the back, which is a beautiful Persian custom. The signatures themselves, what happens is, what are the witnesses actually witnessing? So the rabbi holds a white scarf or cloth, and he stands here and holds this, and the groom holds it, and the bride holds it, okay? And he says, first he reads the ketubah while holding it, okay? The witnesses are supposed to be making sure he reads it correctly. And you read it in English if people don't know the Hebrew and Aramaic, which most people don't. Okay, so they know what they're signing. And then the rabbi says, if you accept the terms and conditions of this ketubah as it has been written and recited, then when I let go of the handkerchief, please retain hold as the chatan, as the groom, kala as the bride. If you accept the terms and conditions of this contract that's been read and recited, that you accept the terms of that. And then the rabbi lets go of this handkerchief. And if they are retaining hold, they have now agreed to this ketubah. It's a great statement about the values of Judaism. We are about action, not words. It's a positive action to retain hold of the scarf, right? As opposed to, that doesn't work in a shotgun wedding, they just let go. It's a positive action. Action, and you'll see this throughout the wedding, it will be done action. You don't remember doing this?
Well, we didn't do that. I mean, we had more of a conservative type of a ceremony, but we've been to a few Orthodox weddings where I know there was, all of that, and I don't remember ever seeing that part of it.
That's an important part. That's the actual important part.
Yeah.
There's also a tradition in Ashkenazi Judaism that there's a bachelor party making fun of the groom that happens beforehand, and a tradition that, we believe that a bride on her wedding day is the physical presence of the Shekhinah.
Mhm.
So if you go to an Orthodox wedding, what you will often see is the bride for hours beforehand is on a chair, on a pedestal, and her mother and mother-in-law to be are on the side, and people come up
That's right.
and get blessed by her.
Hmm.
Okay,
And that's called
it's the two clearest places to get blessed.
right, but what do they call, they refer to that, but then what do they refer to for the men?
It's the party, they call it a roof or something like that.
Roof,
Somewhere,
roof,
yeah,
roof,
roof,
roof.
yeah.
But that's usually the day before. What's
No, they
that?
often do it the night that time
Okay,
before.
yeah.
But I will go when I do weddings, and I will talk to people, and I will say, and I'll tell the wedding party about this, especially, and I get down on my knees to have the bride bless me.
Mhm.
The bride usually cries, or other people cry. It's like, and then you see other people going to get blessed by the bride, because we believe the shefa of God, the flow, is the clearest through a bride on her wedding day. One other person has that clear flow. Does anyone know who it is? Sandak and a bris. The person who's actually holding the baby. That's why if you go to a traditional bris, after the bris, people will line up to be blessed by the sandak, the guy who's holding the baby. Okay, it's a clear flow of God's light, God's presence. So we have this ketubah signing. I actually do a very old-fashioned one. Not many people do this anymore, where I send the bride and her mother and mother-in-law to be out of the room, and I teach a nigun to everyone. And then she is sung in. Everyone rises, and she is sung in by her friends and family to come be it, so that she really feels like a queen, because it's all about her. Okay? We do the ketubah signing. We've now done the first of the 3 stages. Okay? The wedding. All you got to do is exchange something valuable, but that's not typically what happens. So the first thing that happens is the chuppah. The chuppah is composed, it is constructed of the groom's tallis. Okay? Traditionally, the tzitzit have been cut off, and his bride has retied the tzitzit in his tallis. Allison's response was, I don't do macrame.
I love Allison.
Me too. So, but that is actually the talit. You have to be able to see the sky or the ceiling through the talit, the idea that it's a temporary structure. Now, most of the time, most people now, they put up these big chuppahs, right? These big poles and all these floral arrangements. That's actually not the most traditional way. The traditional way is it's to be held, the talit is tied to 4 poles, which 4 men carry in, and that's your chuppah. It's totally temporary. And the idea that the relationships you have are really what are the corners of your wedding. corners of your world. Okay, so you're under the chuppah. So before you get to the chuppah, so now the 4 people come out, then the rabbi comes out, and then you have the processional. In the Ashkenazi custom, usually what happens is the groom comes out first after the rabbi and is there. It's very beautiful. It means that everyone else in the wedding party comes up. They can high five him. They say congratulations. He feels kind of kingly. In the Persian tradition, in the Sephardic tradition, they come out right before the bride. Okay, so I'm going to think of it this way. It's just easier for me when I think that I'm under the chuppah. Okay, and you don't want anyone else under the chuppah. You just want the bride and groom. Okay, I try and stand. And what's the chuppah? It's the talis. So I try and stand behind it. That makes sense. And they're under the talit. So they're in front of it. Okay, and the bride comes out. There are 2 ways of things of doing. Typically in the Ashkenazi world, the parents of the bride escort her all the way up to in front of the chuppah. They give the bride to, what is all that?
Cleaners.
Just cleaners?
Try.
Okay, fine. I'm not going to. Thank you, Lana. So they come up. They give her to him right in front of the chuppah. In the Persian world, they do it. The bride and groom, or the parents of the bride and groom, come halfway down the runway. Then the bride comes out. She takes care of her parents, gives them a kiss, and then he comes out and meets them halfway, and that's where he gets the bride. Okay, 2 different ways of doing it. But now however it's done, you got the bride and groom, they're in front of the chuppah. Now what? The tradition is that the bride walks around the groom 7 times. 7 is the number we see over and over in a wedding. Why? Because it says in the Torah, Uviyom hashvi'i Shabbat v'nefesh, on the 7th day God got a soul. And the idea is their souls are unifying. It's a physical dance on the one hand, but spiritually their souls are going from this to this. Okay? So they're not this, they're not like this, but they're literally like this. It's also a bride marking her territory. Okay?
And she's wearing a veil that's so opaque that she can't see what she's doing.
Well, by that point, hopefully she's not. She can have the veil up because he's already been given to her. He's already checked.
Right.
But some people go down for ridiculous amounts of time. But one way she walks around him. Another way that is more ecumenical is the bride walks around the groom 3 times, the groom walks around the bride 3 times, and they walk around each other once. Either way, they're doing 7 circuits, and they're doing it. That's what your daughter did.
Yeah, we saw that we were at the venue 2 weeks before, and I saw this couple do that, and I thought that was beautiful.
It's very beautiful.
And it really represented, today's world, right? It's not just.
Well, because he's got to mark his territory
He's
too.
got to mark his territory.
Women aren't
and
so,
it's a partnership,
cloistered.
It's a partnership, and
Yeah.
we
So-
were probably one of the only ones in our group generation getting married that I actually walked around him. And did that. A lot of them didn't, but it was something that I thought was really important.
Allison
40
walked
years
around me
ago.
7 times.
Yeah. That
So,
was 40 years ago.
now they come after doing that. Then they're invited to come into the chuppah, under the chuppah, into the house. Next thing that we do is a glass of wine. There are 3 glasses of wine in the wedding. 1 at the ketubah signing and 2 under the chuppah. Again, nefesh, ruach, neshama, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. And wine is a symbol of partnership. Okay, we say it all the time because the numerical value, God makes grapes, we make it into wine. Also, the numerical value of the word for wine and the numerical value of the word for secret is the same. Sod and yain are the same. And that's a teaching that there are some secrets a couple should just share between themselves over a glass of wine. It's also a secret. It's also a teaching that the more the wine goes in, the more the secrets come out.
Oh, that's true.
I will typically look at the groom when I say that. Okay. So we have the first glass of wine. The next step is the exchange of rings. And we do not, again, we're not into, do you take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband to hand, to hold, and to whatever. We do an exchange of rings. We put the ring on our partner's index finger while we say in both Hebrew and English, with this ring you are consecrated to me according to the laws of Moses and Israel. And if they accept it, they take it then from their index finger and put it on the ring finger. Again, action as opposed to words. And similarly, the bride does that for the groom. Okay, they're exchanging something valuable. There are many couples. Now remember, just because something is a choice, that doesn't prohibit other options. There are a lot of couples that want to say words to each other. They want to say vows to each other. Had a few couples who even said, Rabbi, will you ask us questions? My answer is sure, if you give me the questions to ask.
Interesting.
Typically, it is because the bride grew up watching movies and dreamed of saying "I do" at her wedding. Okay, that's typically why. But if you're going to do that, that would happen before the actual exchange of rings. So you have the exchange of rings. Okay, that's the second of the 3 steps. The next custom was what's called the Sheva Brachot, the 7 blessings. We do them in Hebrew and in English because people don't understand the Hebrew. Sometimes I've done it in a 3rd language or had someone else do it in a 3rd language. I did a wedding where Israeli father of the bride, Persian father of the groom, and all 3 of us did the blessings. We did it in Farsi and Hebrew and English. Okay, it's very beautiful. This isn't, and then so we have, again, 7, the number of wholeness, becomes 14, which is the word for yad, which means the hand of God is tying them together. And these blessings are supposed to be chanted. And this is, however, an opportunity if there are people that the couple want to honor. Okay, let me back up. So I always tell this to every couple. Everybody has an Aunt Sophie or Uncle Hushank. Aunt Sophie thinks it's her wedding. Okay? And she's going to tell you what you're supposed to do or what you're not supposed to do. My answer I say this to every couple. Throw me under the bus. If you don't want something she does, say I'm not allowed, the rabbi won't let me. If she says you can't do this, say the rabbi's insisting. Just tell me beforehand. Okay? Throw me under the bus because I don't have to deal with them the rest of my life and you do. Okay? But you may want to honor people at a wedding as well. The Sheva Brachot are an opportunity to do that. It's where you have families or couples or individuals come up and say the blessing. Even if people know Hebrew, I recommend that I do the Hebrews and people can do the English. The reason is there's a qualitative difference between Kol sason v'kol simcha, kol chatan v'kol kala, kol sason, and someone going kol sason v'kol kala. There's just a qualitative difference. Okay, so I always recommend I do the Hebrew. Certainly that I do 1 and 7, so people know when we started and when we've ended. Okay, you have the 7 blessings. That's a choice if you want the rabbi to do it. If you want, this is a great place to honor people. It's another choice. There is the tradition that you wrap the couple in the rabbi's tallis or in a family heirloom tallis. There's the tradition that you put the groom under the bride's veil. And there's the tradition from Tzfat that you take the groom's tefillin and you bind their hands together. Okay, which is also beautiful. So you might just have a veil, you might have just a tallis, you might have a veil and a tallis. You're not going to do tefillin unless you also have a tallis. You might have a veil and a tallis and a tefillin. It really places you in your own world. You are oblivious to everything else going on. If, as a bride and a groom, you're very close, you're under the veil, you're wrapped in a tallis that you're holding, your hands are bound together. And why? Because when we say the tefillin, you guys remember we said, Varastikli b'emunah, I betroth you to me. And we say that when we wrap tefillin, so we're now using it as a symbol with the couple. The last blessing, we do wine. They drink their wine. Take them out of the tallis, the tefillin, the veil, if they've done any of those choices. And then the rabbi will typically say a few words. I try not to, because again, there's not a person in that room that is waiting for me to give a Torah commentary.
Yeah.
But I will,
Certainly not at that point.
not at that point. So they want to get drinking. They want to get celebrating. I will typically, I will typically explain something right then and there that I have not explained to the couple beforehand, which is I'll tell them, look, I can't marry you because in Judaism, I'm not marrying them. They are marrying each other in the presence of a Beit Din, a kahal, a community that has been assembled for that purpose. And so I will come out from the chuppah and I'll say, you are the kahal, and you are the Beit Din, I'm merely the Av Beit Din. And do you accept that this bride and groom should be married? Okay. And then you get all sorts of acclamation because that's literally what's happening. They're marrying themselves. God is cementing the relationship, and it's accepted by a kahal or a Beit Din. Okay. And well, yeah, except you should see some of these brides' faces when I say I can't marry you.
And then you
And you didn't warn them ahead of time, so they're freaking out.
It's so much more fun when you don't.
Exactly.
So much more fun. So now they come back and they've had their 2 glasses of wine. Remember, they had the wine after the Shav Brachot. They had the wine when they first came under. So we've got our 3 glasses. They've done everything except they need to seal their wedding. How do they do that? With a kiss. Okay, so they kiss each other. And I always talk to whoever the best man is, whoever's right in that position. So he puts a glass underneath so they can kiss each other, turn, and break the glass with his heel, not the ball of his foot, so that he doesn't go sliding backwards. Not a light bulb, a glass. Okay. And one of the, so why do we do that? Well, Ashkenazis will often tell you we do it to temper our joy and to remember the destruction of the temple. Does that make any sense theologically?
no.
We're Jews. What do we temper our joy?
No, I don't usually. Maybe that was something you heard back in the day about.
Oh, you still hear it today?
Yeah, we always hear that marriage, the relationship is fragile, and
Again, that's kind of negative. So the one that there's a lot of interpretations. The one that I use and that I love is that in the same way that sound waves never dissipate, they just explode into the world until you can't hear them.
Oh,
Your love is exploding into the world.
wow.
That's
I
beautiful.
not
I like
heard
that a
I
lot
like
better.
that.
That's beautiful.
Okay, but if someone says it's to temper our joy, well, that's their interpretation. I'm not into tempering my joy.
I heard it was to scare evil people and keep them away.
Okay, that's a Catholic custom. So you know why you tinkle glasses, right? When they're kissing to make people kiss is because the idea is sound scares away bad spirits.
Huh.
It's a medieval custom. It's a Catholic custom. Okay.
Now, in Persian weddings, a lot of it was the one thing. So my daughter married a Persian, but the only tradition that he had heard about, because his family wasn't there, was that they dipped their pinkies in honey before the ceremony ended and like exchange that.
That's actually Zoroastrian, I think.
Who or what?
Zoroastrian, which is an indigenous culture from Persia.
Oh, really?
There's actually Zoroastrian custom, and sometimes Persian weddings will do this, not very often, where they will place a very thin scarf over the bride and groom, and you get 2. They're sugar cones. They look like this, and you go like this, so the sugar comes and lands on it and gently comes over them to bless them
Interesting.
with these beautiful Persian scarves. But so again, that's Zoroastrian. But we add to things.
Right.
Okay, so now you've done the wedding, but we've only done 2 of the steps, right? So what are they supposed to do after they've kissed? They're to go to a private chamber, not talk to anybody. Go to a private chamber where they have a shomer, a guardian outside the chamber, doesn't let anyone in. And they're to have their favorite foods waiting for each other, and they feed each other, and they make love. The idea that first thing you've done, and traditionally, by the way, you would also take a mikvah before the wedding. You would also fast for the day of the wedding. Very few people do either of those things anymore. Although it's always nice. I recommend taking a mikvah just because I say to them, look, you're just washing off anyone else if you ever kissed them. So that encourages them. But they have your food, or you have your favorite food and your favorite drink, and you make love. There's no mitzvah police. No one knows if anyone's doing that or not. But it's this time to say, wow, we're really married. Because what happens is they're going to come out to the reception, and it goes like this. And, this is the moment to pause, say, wow, we're Mr. and Mrs. Polani. So you have your food, and you have a shomer outside. I don't know if I've told the story to you. Our shomer was a friend from the Yaqui Indian Reservation who was like 6'1", 250 with hair down to his tochas. And so he stood outside our chamber like this. From all accounts, my mother-in-law, God rest her soul, had to talk to her daughter at that moment. Came scurrying up, came in, she was going to go talk to her daughter, saw my compadre Ramon like this, and then scurried away. He's a big guy. He's like, dear friend, I'm the godfather of his daughter. Very close. So then they come out, and they're now married, and all the steps have been done. There's typically a wine and or bread blessing, and then there's one other thing that I have started recommending to Ashkenazi couples that is a Persian custom that I think is fabulous, just amazing, which is all the centerpieces have these white roses. That's typically what you have, right? and they have other baskets of white roses. And at a certain point before you cut the cake, the bride and groom get in the center to dance, and everyone is around them. The dance is in Farsi, and it's like Erev Shel Shoshanim. It's my love is like roses, etc. Everyone's around them, throwing the roses into the air that are floating down on the bride and groom like a Bollywood film. It's just magical, and it generally doesn't happen until like midnight, but it's just magical. So I actually put that out to couples as well, and that is the wedding. So what makes the wedding is the ketubah, the exchange of something valuable, yahud, which means unification, making love. All the other things are customs. I once did a wedding in under 5 minutes. They were leaving to Israel. They needed to get married beforehand. We did it in a restaurant. It was sign the ketubah. With this one, you were consecrated to me. They went in the back room. They came back out. You're married. Okay? It was that simple. And I've done weddings that are much longer. I typically tell people that depending on the choices they make, it'll be between 17 and 35 minutes once they get to the chuppah. Because I'm not going to tell a Torah portion. I'm not going to give a reading and a Torah reading, and I'm not going to talk a lot about the couple. If they met through this way, and because everyone there already knows it. What am I doing for that? It goes back to the rabbi telling jokes, right? It's what am I there for? That's no one is there to see the rabbi pontificate. No one. I guarantee that. But a lot of rabbis, that's what they choose to do. So that's your wedding, and you can see there's some parallels to the funeral, but there's all this depth going on that's hidden in plain sight. Walking around the bride, the Sheva Brachot, again 7, the wine cups. There's 3 of them. The ketubah, how you do the ketubah. So, when you're doing the ketubah, I let go, they're holding it. I look at the 2 witnesses. I said, did I read it right? And did they hold on to it? And I, it's an older guy and he's back there. I'm going like, how can you see from there that I read it right? And it's a really beautiful experience and very powerful. But again, the ritual is all these different pieces of ritual, but they affect the spiritual world, not just the physical world. Any questions or stuff on that? So those are the 2 most common ceremonies that a non-Jew will ever see. And they constantly ask, how many times have we been at a wedding where someone who's not Jewish says, why are they doing that? Mm-hmm. And your answer is, because the rabbi said so.
Yeah.
And we need to know, because then it becomes more meaningful. And it becomes their choice for the couple. Okay? And it's really a beautiful, beautiful choice. When I was a precocious teenager, I guess that's redundant, I asked Rabbi Larry Goldmark, where do you see God? And he said to me, Michael, I see God when I marry a couple. The groom sees the bride sees the groom, but I get to see God standing between the 2 of them. And I thought, what a great BS rabbinic answer.
Yeah.
I mean, right? That's, what a great. Then I officiated my first wedding. There are no truer words. And it's why I recommend that everyone officiate a wedding. And you don't have to be a rabbi to officiate it. Right. What you do need to be a rabbi for is to sign the state license. However, let's say you were going to officiate a wedding. Okay. Your best friend said to you, will you officiate the wedding? Okay. And so we went through all the Jewish stuff. But what do you do with the civil stuff? Once a month, you go down to the different locations and you become a state deputy commissioner of civil marriages for 1 day for 1 wedding.
You can do it online too.
Can you do it online now too?
Something online. Like some university.
Well, no, this isn't even church. This is the city. This is the
there
state.
is something that you can just do online.
Just do it online.
And then it's
like
good
$50.
forever. You
Yeah.
don't have to it's not good just for 1 wedding.
And then you asked how, and when you fill out the civil license, they have all sorts of requirements that if you don't do right, they'll send it back. So they want the clergy to send the civil license to the state. I don't do that anymore. I tell the couple, we've done it all. You're sending it to the state. They say, well, how come? And my answer is because they told you it's going to take, 6 to 10 weeks, which means in 11 weeks, you're going to be calling me. Did you really send it to them? And in reality, it might take 15 or 20 weeks. Mm-hmm. If you sent it, I don't have to deal with the tsuras. Mm-hmm. So I actually could give it to them to send. another thing that people often do with the broken glass is it can be made into picture frames
Mhm.
or wine glasses or Shabbos candlesticks.
Hmm.
And you can go to the stores that you buy the Jewish stuff at, and they'll be able to do that. And then it's kind of pretty, you know. You have your
Mhm.
mezuzah that has your broken glass in it, things like that.
And they sell the shard glass instead of using a regular glass.
Right? They
You
sell
buy
one that's an easy break,
Yeah, easy break.
It's an easy break.
And then it's perfect to turn into something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
and they do. And you can picture all sorts of colors,
Mhm.
but you can also just use a regular glass. An old-fashioned glass is hard to break. A wine glass is easy to break. You just got to be careful of the stem,
Yeah.
so it doesn't go through people's feet. And that's really what the wedding ends up being.
Hmm.
I personally, unless it's a destination wedding, I leave as soon as I can. Not because I'm being rude, but the exact opposite. I know that often the friends of the bride and groom are recalcitrant to party when the rabbi's still there. So I want to get out so that they can go enjoy themselves. Right? I don't need the meal. I mean, it's a destination wedding, I stay. But if it's not, I try and get out of there, just so that they can do what they want without worrying about the rabbi. Okay? So that's kind of what the wedding and the funeral are. Can you teach that now to other people?
Of course.
That's the question. And so when you get asked at your funeral, why does someone do that? You can now say. You can also say, if you have a rabbi that does some of the BS that you experienced, you can say, you know what, that's not our way. We do at least 3 shovels. I want to bury my loved one properly. And, you know, it's there's no reason not to. Again, unless you gotta get to your tea time. You got a more important appointment.
I certainly never understood the upside down shovel.
It doesn't make sense.
No, but we've heard that most recently, and I went, well, I have enough trouble, because first of all, sometimes it's really hard to deal with the soil. What's the other thing too about, do you have that where you've got to make sure you put the shovel back and you can't
Yes.
pass it on to somebody
So the
else?
reason that you put the shovel in, so when you're done with your shovels, you put the spade or the shovel in the earth or laying on the earth. Why? Because we don't want anyone doing this mitzvah shel chesed gadol doing it because they're forced to as opposed to their choice. So if I don't take it and I just say, here,
Got it.
you might
That
feel
makes
obligated
sense.
and not want to do it.
But it's
So
okay to just lay it there. You don't. Sometimes
No.
you can't actually
you
get.
can
the
just lay it
shovel,
there. It doesn't
skip
matter.
it,
Just
open the-
you just lay it
Okay,
there.
but that makes sense. You just.
So you
you're
don't
not
feel,
handing
no one
it to
feels
someone.
obligated. It's
Right.
clear that it's their choice.
That
There's
makes
also a
sense.
Persian custom, Mizrahi custom, that you place mint and rose water on a grave. It's a beautiful custom too, and it's to enhance the experience so the soul can easily transcend into heaven. So, but why don't we know this stuff? Why aren't? How many times have you been to a funeral and it's like, you don't know why we're doing it? Been to a wedding. Why are they doing that? I just think people need to
I
know.
understand at a wedding, most people don't like. You're one of the types of rabbis that doesn't want to go into a whole lengthy story as to why things are done.
I give it 5
Because it's-
seconds.
Because it's not about you that day, but there are sometimes people that want to know what some of the customs are.
The weddings that I will always spend 5 to 10 seconds on every piece, explaining what it is,
That makes sense.
so that everyone knows, Jew and non-Jew. But that's not the case with most rabbis. They don't explain it.
I've heard that a lot. I guess we've been pretty lucky. I haven't seen experiences like what you went through or something else, but I mean, there are definitely variances, of course.
And you talk to there are differences in funerals. There's differences in weddings. So one of the places that I'm very different than other people, especially in Persian weddings, is there's a midrash that every time that you dance, laugh, scream, express joy, clap at a wedding, it births angels to bless the couple.
Huh.
Okay. So I will literally dance down the aisle. Now I'm only able to do that in Persian weddings because typically Ashkenazi weddings are more Christian weddings with a little Hebrew.
Yeah.
And if I came dancing down the aisle the way that I do, they'd lock me up. Okay. But just, yeah, I
Los Angeles,
I
they sue you.
yeah, probably. I mean, I literally will dance down the aisle and I'll be screaming, "Get up! It's a wedding! Get up!" Okay, stand up and clap because it's really important. There, people do different things. When the bride walks around the groom, often it's a piece of music, or the rabbi or cantor will sing. I'll sing because I can. Nate Lamb does amazing weddings because he sings so beautifully. So, you know, he's singing when they're going across around each other, he's going, do, re, li, va, di. It's beautiful. Okay. So it's all about being clear and remembering who the stakeholders are. Here's the other piece that is a truth with weddings, funerals, any Jewish ritual, and it's actually true of all rituals on one level or another, but any ritual. It is a series of concentric circles. Okay? At the center, we use the wedding as the example. At the center is God. Okay? The circle around that are the bride and groom. The circle around that are the family and wedding party. Circle around that are all the people at the wedding. And the circle around that is the entire world. Okay? How does it affect the entire world? And I think this is a nice thing to remember. Someone goes to a wedding. Okay? Two of you get married. It's kind of weird, but two of you get married. Mr. and Mrs. Pullen get married. And on Monday, they got a guest, Mr. Goldberg, who's an attorney. And on Monday, he's talking to other friends in his law office. What'd you do, Goldberg? What'd you do this weekend? Oh, I went to this beautiful wedding between Mr. and Mrs. Poloni, and there was all this music and dancing. And Goldberg's friend, Friedman, is thinking to himself, you know, I've been dating this girl for 3 years. Maybe it's time for me to get married. And because Goldberg inspired him, he goes and proposes to his fiance. And the wedding couple Poloni's will never know. Often I will know when that happens because someone will say, you know, we're getting married and we heard about you because my friend Goldberg went to a wedding that you had been in. And so I'll hear it, but the couple never will. They'll never even know. So it does affect the whole world. And it is so beautiful and so important. Okay? That's the wedding and funeral. And it's all right there. But how many of us learned something tonight? Right? All this different stuff. And that's what we need to do. We do not have class next week. We do not have class next week. We do not have, okay, I'm saying we do not have class next week because I don't know what I am doing.
Oh, yes.
I don't know until I know. And I asked someone, he helped us get on the wait list to go to the White House Hanukkah party. We're off the wait list. I got an invitation today from the White House.
Congratulations.
The goal was for the 4 of us. This is about my kids. The invitation is only for 2.
So no.
Yeah, that's not gonna
I'm sorry.
work. But so I'm trying to figure out if we can if we can move it to 4. If we can't, should I go anyhow? Because it would be a good thing for business.
It would be a good thing.
But it also would be a brutal trip. Flying out Monday night, flying back Wednesday morning. So I have mixed. Well, I don't know that it is or not.
You don't have anybody else that could help with the kids, Allison?
It's not. No,
It's not about that.
It's about wanting them to go. I want them to go. I want them to be so. Mr. President, it's so nice to meet you, and we'd love to play golf with you. We're both +2 handicaps. We'd love to. We've played the route. We'd love to play Mar-a-Lago with you.
Doesn't matter. They'll cheat anyway. So
Doesn't matter. Let them play golf with the president.
What an amazing, and look, playing golf, yes, even just meeting the president is.
So I have.
Regardless of what you think of the president, one way or the other, it's still an experience. And
It's in the White House.
It's the
So
White House, yes.
I have very. So I have. It's so. Mazel Tov is like.
That's great. I think you should go.
Yeah, you should
So
go.
when are they doing
I'll go for
their
it.
White House? Next
Tuesday night.
So a week from today?
Mhm.
So then there's no class till after the new year, would that be correct?
I think that's correct.
Okay.
Has this been worthwhile doing classes like this?
Yeah.
Kind of exploring things. A little bit different, but I think it's important that we learn these things.
I hope you go. I really do.
I hope I go with my family.
Yeah, I know.
I got it's a very expensive trip for me to go on my own. It's not worth it to me. Take my family.